Hey guys, how you doing? So, um, after some fun with the T-70, Edward Francis's beautiful 124 scale resin T-70, I've laid down the base coats. So for I started off with a primer, then it was dark reefer grey. That was just literally to get the dark chipping to come through. So as you can see there, that's just the reefer grey dark went on, then Vallejo liquid mask applied with a sponge, sorry. So you just literally dab it around. I've done that on previous videos, and then you just put your base coat on and then just rub it off. And you get this quite convincing sort of chipping appear all over the model. So the base coat was Alliance White. That's what the guys at Pinewood used for their maquettes and model miniatures for the film. So that's nice to know that that's accurate. Guys done a good job replicating that in the Archive X range. And then after the white, the Reefer Orange, I masked out and used some 1975 Reefer Orange, again all acrylic. Then the blue markings was the Alliance Blue, which I think is the blue that's used on the other T-70s and the U-wing. Again, that's Pinewood, matched at Pinewood for their models that they were used. And then the top casing of the engines was AK Interactive True Metal Aluminium. So that's how we have it at the moment. And then I went over with the airbrush and sort of darkened up some of the areas and just got it sort of, just interesting looking, just sort of to change the look of the base coat before I started really adding the further weathering. But I've yet to talk about oils with my models in my videos. I don't often use oils because I'm usually copying a studio scale model that was used in the films that was mainly 99% airbrushed. I don't think ILM used oils at all. But it is another sort of weapon to have in your arsenal when it comes to weathering. I used to use oils all the time when I did models and when I competed in competitions, and that was always oils and enamels over acrylics. It kind of lends itself nicely to studio scale because once the oils dry, they do leave a faded, muted sort of airbrushed look. So you can sort of cheat with oils a bit, but I'm not going to be slapping on like a load of black lamp oil wash and then wiping it off with a rag and doing that sort of thing. It's much more careful than that. So basically, I'll get the oils ready. So I'm using the Optlung 502. These were produced by MIG. Now I think AK have taken them over, and that's faded grey. That's faded grey on there, and you put them on a bit of cardboard, and the linseed oil soaks out of the paint, and it will dry faster because oils do take quite a long time to dry. And then I've got some dark beige from Wilder. That's really quick drying paint oils. And then what was the last one? Starship Filth. This is like a green black basically. I don't know how much I'll be using of that actually, to be honest. It's it doesn't really look very ILM, but it does give a dark shade to the panels and that sort of thing. And I'll be applying them with a brush and manipulating with the paint with odorless terpenoid. This is over an acrylic base coat, so oils over acrylics are fine. It's recommended that you do put a clear coat on after the acrylic base coat. That's to protect your base coat when you start manipulating it with a terpenoid. And I'm not going to be rubbing it hard with a cotton bud because that would you know, bring problems. But if you put a clear coat on, that does protect the base coat somewhat, but also it can shift the tones and sort of ruin that replicated look that you're going for. So you've got to be careful. I'm not going to put a clear coat on for that reason. So I am sort of, you know, like dicing with death to a certain extent because it could possibly react with a base coat. But the rule of thumb is oils over acrylics are usually absolutely fine. Okay, so I'll get the oils ready. Okay, so we are literally just going to be using it doesn't have to be a decent brush. It's just like I'm using a number 3 to apply the, start with a dark beige, and you're literally just going to tap around the edges, get the rough idea of how you want it to look. And this isn't a wash in the sense of you're trying to fill every panel line with a dark wash, because that doesn't look Star Wars to me. It just looks like a scale model, or like a, you know, a tank or an aircraft. It's not what we're going for here. We're trying to like have a staining sort of feel, a messed up sort of grungy look. So get it in the areas that you want it to work on, and then you take another brush, and it again, like a knackered old crappy brush, get your odorless turpenoid. I should be pouring that into another cup really, because I don't want to ruin the bottles. Let me just pour that into, okay, I've just poured that into a cup. So an old rag will be handy as well. Just dampen the brush so it's not like sopping wet, and then you could just manipulate that oil around. And as I say, the oils don't dry fast, so you can come in and do this at a later date if you want. And you're literally just moving it around and creating that sort of stained look. It's as simple as that. It's just the colour, like, I don't really know what the word for it is really. It's just staining. It's just giving it that off white sort of look. And you're like pushing the bristles down onto it, pushing it into the corners of the panels, and just giving it some interest. And then once the thinners has evaporated, you're left with the kind of look that you're after. And it looks good on the other colours as well, like orange. Shows up better on the orange. Maybe not, I don't know. Just play with it. And it's exactly the same process with the other colours. So again, less is more, so you don't have to go too over the top. I'll show you this Starship Filth is a very dark colour, so you've got to be careful. So I'll just go in with a smaller brush and literally just take a hint of it. So around here, for example, just a few dots. Again, this is staining rather than a huge traditional sort of, you know, wash, a panel line wash. It's not that. It's completely different. But a few dots will go a long way. And then you go in with your thinner. Again, not soaking wet, but just enough to manipulate it. Push it around, let it pull. And you can repeat this all over the model and just get that dirty sort of look. And I'll still be misting it on with airbrushes and that sort of thing. And then the other thing you can do is I'll try and burst to the camera. You can create streaking with it as well. Oh, sorry. Put it back the other way. So there you go. So I'll go around now doing that all around the model, and then I'll go in with the airbrush afterwards. Another good colour is this faded grey, because it can kind of appear as like a dust layer that's formed inside the recesses of the panels. It looks great over this orange. Then you get your other brush and push it around. And then that'll end up looking kind of like that. But it looks, once the thinness evaporates, you can really start getting an idea of how it's going to finalise. Okay, so this is how it's looking after some fun with the oils. Again, there's no rocket science to it. It's slap it on, slap it off. Just put a little bit on and then manipulate it around with a brush, just like I was doing. This is just to get the core sort of weathering, well, initial sort of discoloration and weathering done. I'll go in with the airbrush, of course, and do my usual stuff. But after looking at the studio, well, not the studio, the actual, like the one that's the Smithsonian, if I said that right, apologies if I didn't, in the States, the life-size one is just, it's just slopped with the sort of black grease and that sort of thing at the back. Now, I've got to try and tame myself back a little bit, with this being a model, not the life-size one. But it's very easy to go over the top with the black. Even though it's not a black, it's like it's like a greeny sort of black, that Starship felt. But it just gives you an idea of what the oils do. I don't like using them at all, really, when I'm doing my replicating the studio scale stuff, because ILM didn't use it and I'm trying to replicate an ILM model when I usually do my studio scale stuff. But this is a different, kettle of fish. So I thought I'd try the oils on it. But I haven't done a video about oils, so I thought I'd do one. When you have different clear coats on the model, like if you had a gloss clear coat, the oils would behave differently. They would slide around. There'd be more of a pin wash. I wanted a staining here, so I applied it over the matte of the acrylics that Archive X have got, and that that's porous, so it sort of absorbs like a sponge. It sort of soaks in the oils, which is the effect I wanted. So I wanted to sort of like have a grungy sort of real world. I work with tractors and heavy machinery and that sort of thing, and the grease that builds up in the corners of those machines do look like sort of this sort of glossy sort of black dirt, and it just appears sort of, I wanted that real world look. But again, this will be misted. I'll go over it with blast streaks and that sort of thing, knock it back again with perhaps with some sandpaper, and just keep playing with it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Cheers, guys.